Welcome to Gaming Alchemy, everyone. Today we are going to be continuing my top 10 favorite solo board games of all time, and we will be going through numbers 5 to number 1 today. Enjoy the list. And number 5 on our top 10 solo board games is Tainted Grail: Kings of Ruin. This game is a very rich narrative story driven game, and some of the best story I've ever experienced in a board game. Like, really good. If you like story, you're gonna love this game. If you love exploration, you're gonna love this game. There's tons of these land cards that you're gonna be experiencing throughout the game. These are the first 3 cards of the game, so I don't think I'm spoiling too much there. But there's this weirdness that's covering the land, and you have to activate these waystones to be able to clear the weirdness enough to continue on in the story. You can still go on these locations when it's weirdness, but you'll just suffer some damage and some terror because of it. And you're just going to be going around, exploring stuff, discovering the story. It's a more narrative story that kind of directs you in a certain direction, but there are a few different ways you can get there. It's not like a sandbox open world per se. There's like a little bit of that in there, but for the most part, it is directing you through a story. But it's an amazing story. I've had so much fun playing through this. It took me about 66 hours to fully complete the campaign, and I had a blast the whole time. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it started to feel a little bit long maybe towards the end. Maybe if it was like, I don't know, if it took me 40 hours, maybe, that would have been a little more palatable. But overall, the game is just really fun. Really enjoyed just how deep and thematic it pulled you in to the story and what was going on. Made you really feel like you were there doing the things you were doing. I played as Elgin and Eunice for my first playthrough, and I would actually really love to play this again, playing through the other 2 characters, Osbert and Gerdwin. There they are painted up, because the story actually does change depending on who you are, and so that's really cool. I'd like to experience what happens because they are in the story now. And even the direction you go, there's a point in the story where you can go 2 different ways, and depending on which way you choose, affects things in the other region. So if you do it the opposite way, it'll affect things in a different way. So it actually leaves room for a lot of replayability. You can play this through more than once, and honestly, by the time you play through it again, you're probably going to forget a lot of the story parts that you experienced the first time, or you're going to experience new parts of the story, because there was a lot of things that I could tell there was things going on that I missed that I could totally pick up the next time I go around. I just have the kind of the normal non-epic version, so I have standees for the enemies, which is not a big deal at all. It was great because I didn't have to paint them either. I don't think I'm spoiling too much here. They showed all these big bad guys on the campaign page, so close your eyes if you don't want any spoilers, but here is the one knight, Claudine, I think his name was, painted up. There's also this bishop guy. He's got tentacles all over him. Looks a little bit Cthulhian almost. But these are the colors I kind of chose to paint them in, and they look really great. Awakened Realms has awesome miniatures, in case you haven't noticed, and they make incredibly thematic games that really pull you in, and I really enjoy thematic games a lot, as you have probably noticed. And how this game works is you're going to have your player board here. You're going to have energy, health, and terror, and you're basically going to be managing those things. Your energy is kind of like your action points that are going to enable you to do things. You're going to start out with so much health. Each character is a little different. and you have terror that you're gonna get for doing certain things or encountering certain enemies. This is where you track all your resources. You have food, wealth, experience, and magic. And there's different skills that each character has, and you'll be able to eventually purchase these skill cards that you can add to make you even more powerful, to make your skills higher. And they also give you an ability too. Each character also has their own asymmetric ability that lets them do things. And the combat and diplomacy system is really cool. You have these different cards that you're going to be trying to match symbols up, so that there is no dice rolling in this combat. So it's actually fairly thinky combat. You're trying to a little bit luck of the draw, but you're also trying to think of how can I do this in the most efficient way that's going to, not hurt me in the littlest bit possible. There's also item cards that you're going to discover throughout the game. There's allies. I have a full playthrough, or sorry, not a playthrough, a full review of this on my channel. So if you want to know more about it, go watch my review of Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin to learn more. And that is my number 5 top solo game, Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin. And number 4 on our top 10 solo board games of all time is the Sleeping Gods series. So I'm including both games in this series. There was the original just called Sleeping Gods. This is the standalone sequel called Distant Skies. And I think I prefer this one over the original a bit, just from the improvements that Ryan Lockett made on it. The original is still a ton of fun. I recommend both. Go get either one, whichever one you can find, or buy them both if you want. If you want a ton of adventure. But yeah, I like the improvements he made on this. The combat is a little different, and there's a few other things that he just kind of streamlined a bit more. And obviously the map looks a lot different. This is a much more zoomed in version of the map, and you're going to be moving through these hexes, and you're going to be exploring these different locations. There's going to be hazards that you're going to have to deal with. And this whole big square right there is just one of these squares on the overall giant map. So there's a lot to see. There's a lot to explore. And what I really love about this is that it's just an open world game, sandboxy kind of game. You can just discover things. You go wherever you want. You do whatever you want. And I think that's why it has the edge over Tainted Grail, because I love that you can just go experience what you want to experience. You can go over there if you want. Hey, that looks cool. Let's go over there. And as you explore from one page to another, you're going to be exploring new regions. And it's just so much fun just discovering what's happening, what's going on. There's this giant storybook that you're going to be reading stories from, different sections based on the location you're on. You're trying to complete quests, you're trying to find totems, and you're trying to awaken them to potentially try to return home. There is one of the gods, Nikra, has promised to help you return home. And in this game, you're also going to be flying around on this plane, which is so cool. Each map section has a plane symbol on it. So if you're ever on that section, you can jump in your plane and you can fly to these other regions a lot quicker. And obviously your plane has fuel and it could potentially get damaged. And so you're going to be kind of moving around the map that way. Much different than the original game. The original game, you were on a ship and you had, it was a much more zoomed out view. And I think I almost like that zoomed out view just a little bit better, because you could see more maybe. I don't know. This is still really awesome though. Don't get me wrong. I love this just as much almost, but I don't know. Something about that overland, just seeing more of the map and the area. This kind of condenses things a little bit, but I still prefer this game overall. It is a little easier though, having played through both campaigns fully. The original game kind of beat you up a little bit, and it was definitely harder. You always felt like you never had enough resources. You were constantly dying. I don't know. This game kind of goes to the other extreme. It's hard in the beginning. As you play through the middle to the end, it definitely gets easier as you get more powered up and get more powerful and get more items and adventure cards that help you fight your enemies better. But that being said, you can also make this game more difficult. And so there is that. Here's some of the minis. So I have the Game Found edition, it's called, which came with miniatures for all the different characters. They're not really necessary per se. The game also comes with standees. So the only thing that you really use these for, there's Claire, the captain. Yeah, the only thing you really use these for is in the adventure book. There's these wandering encounters, it's called. And so these are like all little mini encounters. And you can basically put 1 or 2 guys on each one to try to accomplish or pass these different challenges that you have to face. And you can go back into these wandering encounters if there's stuff you didn't get to complete. You can go back in and do them after. But yeah, it's kind of cool. This was not in the original game, so this is something that he added, which is a lot of fun. There's also an expansion that comes with the Game Found edition called Thunderstorm Island, I think, which I haven't actually even touched yet, so I want to try that as well. But that is Sleeping Gods. I'll just quickly mention too that this is one of the changes that he also made, was that now you have time that you, or kind of like your action points on your turn. So you get so much time kind of for each character's turn and for the encounters that you're going to encounter, for how much you can move around the map and stuff like that. So that's how that works. And then you can store all your resources here. There's encounters, just like the first one, and these fate cards. And it comes with these really cool metal stamina tokens. That's Game Found edition only though. So if you just got the normal retail edition, you'll just have cardboard versions of those. But yeah, just a ton of fun. If you love exploration, this does exploration almost the best. I do own Seventh Continent, but I have not even played that yet. I think that's maybe the next campaign I want to start on. So really excited to explore that game and see how it compares to Tainted Grail and Sleeping Gods. But that is my number 4, Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. And number 3 on our top 10 solo board games of all time is Oathsworn Into the Deepwood. This is a giant boss battler game. It's huge, it's epic. It's quite a lot to learn and set up, and it's super expensive, and it takes up a lot of room in your on your board game shelves. But I think it's totally worth it. This game is so much fun. Just check out those minis, man. Like, these things are huge. Like the biggest minis I own. And they definitely look way better painted, as you can see. Gray is boring. Paint is amazing. Here's little rat minions. So this is the very first boss in the game that you fight. So I'm not spoiling anything. Here's your heroes. So there's actually like 12 heroes you can be. This is the priest. There's the huntress. And she actually has these 2 awesome eagles that fly around the map and help her attack things. So she's like one of the more complex characters to play, but she's super fun. Here is the Exile. These turned out really good. These were a lot of fun to paint. And this awesome war bear is just sweet. Who wouldn't love being this guy in a game? And you can actually take their limbs off or their arms off and put different weapons on. That's kind of neat. Kind of a gimmick, but kind of neat. And in this game, you're basically going to be able to roll a bunch of dice. So you start out with white dice. You can roll as many as you want. There's like 10 of them in the game. And as long as you don't roll 2 blanks, so right there I did 4 hits. As long as you don't roll 2 hits, you don't fail your attack. And you can upgrade the white dice into yellow dice or red dice or black dice. And they do even more hits. Like the black dice does a potential 5 hit, and if you see this symbol on it, that means it's a crit, and you get to re-roll another dice of that color and add it to your attack. So super fun. But you can also use cards. If you don't like dice, you can just use cards, and you can figure out all your probabilities and everything. These are the player boards. So you're going to have this stuff called animus, and you're going to use that. With each card, they're all going to have a cost, an animus cost. So you're going to use that much animus. And then it's got this battle flow system. Like a bunch of people have talked about this game on YouTube already. Most of you probably know what it is and how it plays, but each card has a position that you have to play it in. There's a 0, 1, 2, and 3 position around your player board. So here's our Exile. And you have to play that card to that position. And then the next time you play a card in that position, it's going to move to the 1 slot and then eventually to the 0 slot. And that's kind of like the cooldown effect for all of your attacks. And so you have to really, it's a cool puzzle figuring out, okay, how am I going to play this so that this comes back, and then I'm going to be able to move that over here and do that, and be able to bring those cards back into your hand again. And each guy starts with different weapons, so he actually has 2 axes because he's got 1 in each hand, which makes a lot of sense. And then you got armor. And as you play the game, this is a campaign game, so you're going to be upgrading your weapons. They're going to do different amounts of damage. This little cube there means that he actually starts with 1 yellow dice, and then you can choose as many white dice as you want. And there's tokens to upgrade them and stuff, like I said. And I love rolling the dice. I think it's way more fun than the cards. That's just me, though. I think it's way more thrilling. And the probability it can go for you and against you. You can roll a ton of sweet hits, and it feels super awesome. And it's really great. For each scenario is going to have a town phase beforehand. It's kind of like the story mode. And so this is the town of Bastogne. It's the very first city you start the game on. So you start here and then you move on to your encounter. But this is a really neat phase too. It probably takes about an hour to do, 45 minutes to an hour depending. And usually you're in a city. I haven't completely finished this campaign, so I don't know where else it's going to take me between scenarios. But you're going to start on outside the city, and then these little tokens are going to populate, and you're going to be able to choose where you want to go to try to figure out some kind of a mystery of what's going on. And then after that, you're going to fight a battle. So it is just incredibly thematic. And you know, I love my thematic games. This one really pulls you into the story. It's really well written. Trying to figure out which game is better written, Tainted Grail or this one. They're both really, really, really good. Totally different games. Tainted Grail and Sleeping Gods have a lot of exploration, more exploration focus. This is more like a quicker story, and then you're fighting. Kind of like a dungeon crawl, but you're just fighting a big giant boss at the end. And it's a ton of fun. If you can afford it and you are really good at painting miniatures, you can make this game look amazing. And man, it just makes me want to play it just having it set out here on the board. But like I say, there's a few hurdles. It's super expensive, takes up a lot of room. It takes a bit to learn. So keep that in mind. But I think it's worth it. Had so much fun with this game already, and I'm not even that far into it yet, but just can't wait to play all the other bosses. And there's so many bosses that are just as big as this. Some of them aren't, but a lot of them are. So check out Oathsworn Into the Deepwood if you haven't already. And that is number 3 of our top 10 solo board games of all time, Oathsworn Into the Deepwood. And the number 2 game on our top 10 favorite solo board games of all time is Nemesis. And I own almost basically everything for this game by now. I've got the Carnomorph expansion. I've got the Aftermath. Sorry, Void Seeders expansion. Here's the Aftermath expansion. And this game is just so awesome. This just makes me want to play it again, seeing it all set up. And it is so thematic. I think this game pulls me into the theme more than any other game I own, which is really saying something because I own a lot of thematic games. And this one just does it just a tiny bit more, I think. It's not a narrative-driven game at all, but it tells its own story. The crazy things that can happen in this game are amazing. I remember one game I played, my one buddy, the first room he discovered was the nest, and he ended up pulling the queen token from the game board, or the bag, and the queen came in and basically murdered him. Like, you just can't make that kind of stuff up. And just look at these minis. These minis are amazing. And of course, I got them all painted up, and that just adds even more to the thematicness of this game. Here's some of the characters you can be. I love this soldier character. He's a lot of fun to play with. He can shoot the aliens up perfectly. And this game just is exactly Aliens, the first movie, into a board game. It has so many of the same kind of elements. Here's another one of the crazy aliens. And you just have so much like fear walking around, not knowing what's going to happen. You're going to be creating noise. And when there's noise in all 4 corridors of one room that you've explored, then you're going to have to pull a token from this infamous bag. And depending on what you pull and what symbol it is, will generate or spawn an enemy or an alien in your room with you. And that's never a good thing. And everyone has their own objective that they're trying to accomplish. And when you're playing with other people, there can be some nasty ones in there that, your character is the only survivor, or player 4's character cannot survive. You can't directly open fire on the other characters in the game, however. So you have to find other ways for them to to die by trapping them in a room with an alien, or just, leaving them there in a room by themselves. I've got an expansion that added doors, and they look so cool. I mean, I can use these in any other space-themed game. Here's the escape pods, all painted up, and came with eggs too. Alien eggs. They look so good. These are all just tokens before, or cardboard, so looks awesome. So basically in this game, you wake up out of cryo sleep in the hibernatorium over here, and you can't really remember anything, and all you have in the room with you is this dead corpse. And this was also in that expansion that added the doors. And this was just a token before as well. And so then you're just trying to figure out what's going on in this ship. You're trying to accomplish your goals that come out once the first alien comes onto the board. That's when you have to decide. You get two objectives you're trying to complete, and that's when you pick one, when the first alien comes out. So you've added some time to figure out what's going on, and now you got to decide what you're going to accomplish. Here's another one. And it's just so much fun. And the solo version of this basically just makes it co-op. So I usually just play with 2 characters. Here we got the captain, we got the soldier, and it's a card-driven game. So every character is going to have cards. A lot of them are going to be similar. They might cost less. Here's the cost, this little 0. So these cost 0 to do for this guy. Some people, or some of the other characters, it might cost them 1 or 2 cards to do some of these. And then they all have kind of special cards that only they have, kind of asymmetrically. So this guy has, discard during a surprise attack to ignore its effect. Nobody else has a card like that. Or perform a shoot action with your energy weapon. You can reroll your first die on the combat die. You can search rooms, and there's items. You can even craft items by adding your other colored items together. You can get slimed. Obviously, you're going to be taking wounds. Here's all your different actions. You're basically going to be doing your stuff, and then there's this whole event phase where there's going to be the time tracker is going to be moving down. If it ever makes it to there, then the ship kind of blows up. There's also this emergency auto-destruct system that's, if it ever makes it to there, the ship blows up. There's a way you can turn that off, though. And then the intruders are going to be attacking you. So you're going to be flipping these cards, and depending if the enemy attacking you is one of those symbols, then this will happen. And then there's event cards. And crazy things are going to happen as a result of these events. Some of them, once they happen, you take them out of the game completely. Otherwise, they might just get shuffled back in. There's this whole intruder board. So as you discover things in the game, you can analyze a character corpse, an intruder egg, or an intruder carcass, and then you actually discover some of their weaknesses. So this one says, intruders other than the queen and breeders cannot destroy closed doors. So that's helpful. Then if an adult intruder attacks you with a bite, it deals a light wound instead of a serious wound. So lots of helpful things to kind of help you continue on in the game. But if you hate randomness, you probably won't like this game. But if you like just having fun, seeing what happens, being pulled into this amazing adventure that you're going to have, then you're going to love this game. If you like just rolling some die, seeing what happens, and exploring this ship. Normally, these are going to be upside down, and then when you go on them, there's going to be an explore token you're going to reveal, and it's going to be usually bad. And then, yeah, so it has an exploration aspect to it too, but also it's its own adventure. It's also horrifying and terrifying because there's all these alien creatures coming at you, and you don't know when they're going to show up and how much noise you're going to make because you're just rolling this die every time you go into a room, and that's the corridor that the noise is going to go into. So that's how that works. And I just want to quickly show you, I also have the Carnomorph expansion. So this is like the kind of like the queen in the original. Oops. And it just looks amazing. Painted up. Just gives me Dead Space vibes. If you guys have ever played the game Dead Space, I played a lot of it back around 10 to 15 years ago. And this just makes the game go from aliens to Dead Space. Here's another one of the flesh beasts or something like that, I think they're called. and they just look gross, and it's so awesome. And then here's kind of like the little larva stage of these guys. And the last thing I want to show you, I know this is getting long, is the Void Seeders expansion. So this is another race of aliens you can play against, and they have these little egg things that are actually creating nightmarish visions that you're having, and that are kind of created by this guy, which is basically the queen of the Void Seeders. He looks really awesome painted. So yeah, this is the only actual real creature that's physical from the Void Seeders. The rest are just your imagination playing tricks on you, which would be these guys. Let's focus. So here's one of them that will come and attack your mind. And then once you destroy, there's 3 of these in the game. Once you destroy these 3, then you destroy the queen, actually. And it can't be spawned onto the board. I'm fairly certain that's how it works. I've only played with these guys once so far, but they were a lot of fun and totally changed the game feel. You know, it's just, you can go insane with this type of aliens. Yeah, it's just a totally different feel. So if you're sick of playing with the main aliens, you can grab an expansion, and then you got a whole nother way to play. So that is my number 2 game of all time for solo play, Nemesis, especially with all the expansions. You don't need all the expansions, but I need all the expansions, you know what I mean? And my number 1 solo board game of all time is Mage Knight, the board game. And I have every expansion for this game except for the new one that's coming out this year. This game is like 13-ish years old, and they're still coming out with expansions for this. So awesome. I can't wait to play that one. I think it adds a campaign and an amazing dragon. And there is no other game that I've owned as long as this one on this list, for sure. Definitely the oldest one. It's one of the very first games I ever bought and learned how to play solo. And the whole reason why I was playing it solo was to learn how to play the game, because it was such a complex game. I'd never seen a game so complex before in my life. And here I was, this newbie gamer trying to learn it. But I was just so interested in it, and it just looked so amazing. I didn't care. I was just going to learn how to play it no matter what. And it has been a huge payoff in my board gaming career. I think this is probably one of the games I have the most logged hours in of any game in my collection. And this game is so thematic. I get pulled into what I'm doing so much, which is so crazy because it's basically a Euro game disguised as this fantasy game. And basically you're just trying to, you pick up 5 cards every round, and you're basically trying to figure out how you can use these cards in the most efficient way to do what you want to do. And this is like an open world sandbox game. You can just go do whatever you want. Your goal is to defeat these cities. And depending on how hard you want the game to be, there can be 1 to 4 cities. You're just trying to get yourself powerful enough so that you can eventually beat them at the end of towards the end of the game. You have 3 days and 3 nights to do it usually, but that's also variable. So you can make this game kind of as long and epic or short as you want. And the awesome thing about this game is you are trying to decide if you're going to use your cards for their just basic ability at the top here, or if you're going to power them up with mana to get the bottom ability. And every card can be played sideways for one of anything. So you have attack, you have move, you have block, you have influence. And so yeah, you're just trying to figure out, how can I do this? You also are going to have units. So you can recruit units, and they're going to give you stuff, and you can power them up with mana to get more powerful abilities. And you can also, when you level up your character, you're going to get 2 of these skills, and you're going to be able to pick one. And you're also going to be able to get a card from this advanced action deck. So you're going to be kind of deck building, making your deck better and better as the game goes on. You can also, these mage towers, when you defeat them, you flip them over. You're going to have to fight that enemy. But when you defeat them, you get a spell of your choice from the spell deck. There's ways to get artifacts, which are... Oh, that's a spell. Why is there spells in there? You have these awesome artifacts, and you get to look at 2 and pick 1 whenever you get one. And they have this awesome ability on the top, and they all have a throwaway ability. So you can discard this card forever, trash it, but you get this awesome ability at the end. And sometimes you just need to do that to defeat those cities. And it's just so thinky. It's so fun. There is dice in this game, but it's not a dice chucker by any means. These dice are so awesome because, man, you never get what you want rolled, and it's always a fight to try to get the mana you need to do what you want, and it's just so much fun. This game can take a really long time. A solo play, once you know what you're doing, can take like 3 hours. If you're playing with one other person, it can take like 6 hours sometimes. But you don't even like realize how fast time is going by. Like, it's just, you're so immersed the whole time. And even after 13 years, I am not sick of this game. There's so many ways you can play this. There's so many different scenarios. I could play this game for the rest of my life and not get bored of it. And it's just so much fun. You can play true solo. So you only need one character. You don't have to play single-hand or double-handed. And that's another awesome thing about it. You can have such an awesome adventure because you're going to be exploring and everything. And you only have to take care of one character, which is a huge bonus. It's a bit of a bear to learn. But once you learn it, like the rules are pretty well implanted in my head now. I can just pull this out and start playing. And the setup isn't that bad compared to some of the games on this list. And it's just so much fun. There is some chance in the cards that you draw, but that's half the fun to me is, okay, this is what I want to do. These are the cards I've drawn. How can I do what I want to do with what I've got? And that is what makes this game so great, is that you don't know what you're going to be able to do, and you really hope you draw that one attack card you need or that move card because you're stuck and you can't move anymore. And with the skills you get, the advanced actions, you're just, I think no other game does leveling up as good as this one. And it's just so much fun. You got to try it. If you love solo gaming, you got to give Mage Knight a try. Maybe it won't be for you, but it was definitely for me. And a little bonus number 1 is this little guy called Mint Knight. So this is a miniaturized version of Mage Knight that fits in this tiny little tin. It's even got some reference on the back. And so you can bring Mage Knight with you when you're on the road or on vacation. I also brought this game to Mexico when we went on vacation last year, and I played Mint Knight on the balcony of our hotel. And it's just like Mage Knight, but it's super condensed. So these are all double-sided, and they once you use them once, then they flip this way, and you can upgrade them by flipping them the other way. Still have your spells. These are like your skills. These are kind of like your artifacts. You have units you can recruit, and it shows your levels and how many cards you can draw and stuff like that, and your block. And then these are the different enemies you're gonna fight against. And this is double-sided. Everything's double-sided because you just get more game out of it when you do that. And this is the map. You're just gonna be moving your little guy. It even comes with this tiny little miniature. And you're just going to be moving him around, doing the same things that you would be with Mage Knight, but it's quicker, way smaller, and cheaper. This game is still, I live in Canada, so you get this game from the Game Crafter, and it's kind of a print-on-demand kind of game. And it's a little expensive, up at least in Canada, because you got to pay quite a bit for shipping to get this, but for me, it was totally worth it, because I can bring Mage Knight wherever I go, and I'm just as much playing this as I do its big brother. And that, everyone, is my #1 solo board game of all time, Mage Knight the board game. And I wanted to mention just a few honorable mentions. So I have Marvel Dagger. Didn't quite make the list. But it is a pretty fun game that I got for like $20 from Board Game Bliss on sale. Normally like $100. So pretty awesome game to get on sale. Kind of a cooperative pandemic-y style game, or Marvel Champions. It's very similar, but it has a board. And it's a lot of fun. Shadows of Brimstone I recently got, and I'm in the process of painting the miniatures. And I played it a couple times, super fun. Can't wait to play more of it, and there's so much content for this game. Man, you could just play this game your whole life, and you would still not play it all, I'm sure. And Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. I am currently playing the campaign through of this game, and I'm getting pretty close to being done, and I hope to be having a review come out of this game after I completely finish the campaign, coming out pretty soon. And I also own Seventh Continent and Folklore the Affliction. And so those games would probably be on this list if I had played them yet. Haven't played them or gone through their whole campaigns yet. That's going to be in the future sometime, whenever I get time. And then I just wanted to highlight a few quick little button shy games. This one's called Sprawlopolis. These are just 18-card games that you can play solo. And in about 10 minutes, and just a lot of fun. Another game you can kind of bring anywhere. And here's another one called Numbsters, and it's kind of got cutesy art, but it's another little quick one you can kind of play anywhere. So there's some more options if you're traveling and you need something quick to play that fits in your pocket. These are really good ones to bring with you, along with Mage Knight. And I also have Tin Realm and Tin Helm, which are also those little mini tin games, which are a lot of fun and that can be brought anywhere. I just don't have them in here for some reason. But those are my honorable mentions. Hopefully you enjoyed this list. And like and subscribe as usual, and have a great day, everyone.